Hi, I'm Heather French-Henry, the host of Heart of Gold, a monthly program whose mission is to highlight examples of what makes Louisville, Kentucky the most compassionate city in the world, as declared by Mayor Greg Fisher. Compassion can take on many forms, ranging from individual acts of kindness to large-scale nonprofit organizations. This series features local nonprofit organizations of all shapes and sizes, which are working to improve the quality of life for all Louisville citizens. Thank you for joining us, and special thanks to WHS TV for producing this series. This segment features Restorative Justice Louisville. It provides a holistic and restorative approach to the traditional criminal system by bringing together the offender, victim, and community to make things right. Through facilitated conferences, all parties involved collectively identify harm and determine a way forward that is centered on healing for everyone. Using the restorative justice approach ensures that compassion and restitution are integral parts of the judicial process. We are excited to have two people with us today from the Restorative Justice Louisville organization, including the Executive Director, Libby Mills, and Board Chairperson, Judge Angela Bisig. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you, Heather.
Excellent.
Thanks for having us today.
Oh, great to have you all on board. So let me start with you, Miss Libby. So the Restorative Justice Louisville, tell me about this organization when it started.
We started working in 2010 with a large group of very committed people, representatives from the criminal justice system, the faith-based community at large, to adopt restorative justice practices in our juvenile justice system. We were organized and approved as a nonprofit in 2010, and it started accepting referrals early in 2011 and been working diligently since.
What are some of the principles involved with this program?
Restorative justice is, as you said previously, a holistic approach, and it views crime differently than we traditionally think. And a very simple definition of restorative justice is when we harm someone or do someone wrong, we have an obligation to acknowledge that harm or that wrong and take steps to make it right. We want to involve all the parties that have been impacted by that wrong or their crime, so they have the ability to have input on how a resolution is adopted and how it's implemented, so that wrong is repaired.
Now, Judge Bisig, this is a perfect segue. So we've explained what it is. Why is it needed here in Louisville?
You know, we wanted to move forward with this program because places in our community or in our world where it's being tried, they have phenomenal results of reducing juvenile crime rates. The program we are modeling ourselves after, that we visited and had the people who formulated it come, they were able to reduce their juvenile crime rate by a full 2/3. We handle about 6,000 cases of juvenile crime a year in this community. And we feel like if we could reduce that by 2/3 by having young people go through a process that really helps them to understand the impact of their crime and to move forward and not reoffend, it's perfect with Mayor Fisher's compassion effort. It's also perfect in an effort to reduce money that we spend out of our state budgets and our local city budgets incarcerating people.
So explain to me the normal system with which a juvenile goes through in the court system, and then the different components of restorative justice.
In a normal case, a youth is charged with violating the law either through a police arrest or a citizen taking out a warrant. They're assigned a prosecutor to the case. They get a lawyer. The lawyers negotiate over the evidence, and then the judge may enter a plea or the judge may hear a trial, because in juvenile court all the trials are just in front of the judge. The juvenile is given a punishment and everyone moves on. And we call that accountability because you've broken our law and you've gotten a punishment. But there's no point in that process where that victim really gets to be heard or where that victim gets a lot of input in how the harm that was caused to them can be repaired. And the juvenile doesn't get a chance to humanize that victim. In restorative justice, instead of just going to court, the parties come together in an organized conference with a trained facilitator. The police officer is there who explains what happened. Community members are there to say how it harmed them. And the victim can say, I haven't been able to sleep at night since you robbed me. And my son has been afraid and unable to stay in his own room. And when you watch a juvenile's face understand the impact of what they've done and their family members, and then they sit down and write a list of things they can do to make it right. And everyone in the conference agrees to that, and the judge becomes the moderator. It's a very powerful way to be able to address crime in a way that makes youths get it And when I say get it, I mean understand the impact and then think twice before they maybe are presented with a situation where they would engage in some kind of criminal behavior.
So what do you say to any naysayer or someone who may not understand, who may say, is that tough enough on crime?
I'm so glad you asked that. I spent years as a prosecutor before I went on the bench. And I'm out in the community, and I know people want people held accountable when they violate our laws. If you hurt someone in this community, if you steal from them, it's our tenets as Americans. You follow the law and you have a consequence. Restorative justice is actually very tough on crime because I think the best way to be tough is to stop it from happening. And if we can take juveniles and put them through a process that not only holds them accountable the way our current system does, and we want to keep our current system in place, our due process rights are hard fought for and they're important. But if we can put youth through a process that really makes them understand the impact of what they've done and puts them on the road to right and brings them back into the community, which is one of the tenets of restorative justice. They're not ostracized. You're not bad for the rest of your life. You've done something wrong, you've made it right, and now we welcome you back to be a full and participating member. I say it's tough on crime, A, because it helps crime not happen again, B, because our victims report a high rate of satisfaction with feeling that justice was done.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask next. From the victim's perspective, have you seen a lot of relief? Are they anxious when they first hear about this process? And how do you get the okay for them to want to be face-to-face?
You're right, they are anxious, and that's why this program is so good, because it allows people to understand what this is. And it's a little daunting to think you're going to sit down in the same room with someone that committed a crime. And we understand that. But victims report in an 80+% rate that they are satisfied with the outcome, and I think it's because they get that closure. I think it's because they get that sense of being heard and feeling like their feelings about what ought to happen are taken into account. So we're excited. We think that this program can make a big difference in our community. We think it can make a big difference in our justice system. And we're interested in having the community, this community of Louisville, have an open heart enough to look at whether this is something we want to do on a broader scale with our youth.
Well, and speaking of a broader scale, Libby, what do you envision for the future of this program?
Well, we've discussed, and hopefully in about 10 years, as we continue to grow, to be able to handle at least a third of the cases that are referred into the juvenile court system. And as Judge Bisig talked about, there's anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 cases a year. And so if we can handle a third and have significant impact and positive outcomes with those cases, we think we would be doing a very good job. Plus, we would like to begin to look at moving into the adult system, and with especially young adults, 18 to 25-year-olds, because they have the highest rates of recidivism out of the adult system. So, you know, gradually as we begin to grow and expand our capacity, to be able to look at where we can have the best impact and the greatest impact in our community.
Well, how does an individual who has no experience in the justice system, how does the normal Louisvillian out there get involved in this, or can they get involved?
You would be surprised. We have tremendous support in the community, and most of it has come from us talking to people, people hearing about it at different places, people discussing it among themselves. I get calls and emails continually about how do I get involved. The easiest way to learn about us, of course, is our website, and www.rjlou.org, and or contact me directly. And people can be volunteer facilitators, which means they will be helping us work individually with each case that's referred to us, working with the young people and their families who have been harmed.
What type of person becomes a facilitator? So that just, you know, sparks this.
We have right now over 40 volunteer facilitators that are active working with us, and it is a tremendous range. We have retired people down to young people who have just graduated from law school. We have professionals and non-professionals. We have community members, and we have community leaders. It's a wide range.
So is there a training that goes on for
yes,
these
there's a
facilitators?
4-day training
Okay.
that we conduct, and right now Spalding is hosting our training, so we are able to use their facilities there. It's 2 days of learning about the theory and philosophy and how restorative justice practices can impact the criminal justice system, can assist individuals, can support them, and then 2 days of practice. And
Wow. And so have you seen long-term effects even on those who are the facilitators or mentors in this situation? Is that something that you think that these people, once they get involved in, it becomes a lifelong mission?
I have facilitators who have been with us since 2010, and they still call me, got a case for me? I'm ready to go. They take on very difficult cases because we're working with, even though our main objective is to help victims have a voice in the criminal justice system, we're also working with the young people and their family to reduce recidivism, to help them reintegrate back into whatever social circle or community that they're in and not being looked at as that bad kid, that bad person. And so we're looking at how do we help them do that? And so I have amazing, intuitive, very committed facilitators that are doing a tremendous job.
So, Judge, tell me a little bit on the scope of the United States. Where does Louisville rank? Are we among the first to have this? I know that you had mentioned New Zealand as sort of the model program you've looked after. Are there other cities in the country doing this as well?
Let me back up. New Zealand did a program. They're the ones I'm talking about. They have about the same population as the state of Kentucky, about 4.2 million. Okay. And they have an indigenous population called the Maori people who are disproportionately confined as our African American population is in our juvenile justice system. They're the ones that took their crime rate down by a full 2/3 by implementing this very same program that we're talking about. There are pockets of places. There's a woman in Lexington, Kentucky who has been doing this work on her own. But we would be here in Louisville the first place in our state actually using restorative justice practices in juvenile court. There are also pockets of places using these principles in various capacities around the country, but we really would be on the cutting edge in terms of implementing this in our juvenile courts, making it available to a broad number of youth offenders, and then seeing the outcomes. We have so many good and positive anecdotal stories from the participants that have been in these conferences, and it's exciting.
How many cases have been referred to you so far since you've started?
We've had 260 cases referred to us. We take as many cases as they will send us, but we're also limited because we're still a very small organization. So we're planning to grow to take on more and more as we can.
Where do you get funding?
We have had just tremendous support through various people in the community. Tori Murden McClure, the president of Spalding University, has reached out, provided us meeting facility places to hold our conferences. We have had community groups, we have met with community leaders, we've had individual donations, we've had a huge support from Leadership Louisville. All of their classes learn about restorative justice, and we've had many people from their organization come on board and help our organization after they learn about us. So it's really been a stone soup. We've had so many people come together. We're really mostly a volunteer organization at this point. We're looking into some grants and then hopefully to get in government budgets. We have a legislative active committee that's working to let government know what we're doing. So we're attacking it on all fronts, and this is such a help to be able to get out and tell the community about it.
Well, it's very refreshing to see a compassionate way of looking into the justice system, certainly from the veteran standpoint. Yeah. We have the Veterans Treatment Court, which we're big advocates of as well, so adding a little compassion through the process. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. And to find out more about Restorative Justice Louisville, go to www.rjlou.org. Thank you so much for joining us.